going to use the Poverty USA map to understand where poverty is in the South, but also where it's not, kind of the inverse of that. We can also learn from that as well. And we can see in general, the reason why I'm talking about poverty and bringing this map out from the PovertyUSA.org is because it relates very much to the South, to Dixie. We can see in other regions that we've covered, the megalopolis, the foundry, the Rust Belt, New England. There is some poverty here and there, but it's nothing like it is in the South, where it's from, county to county. You definitely see some clear patterns. Further, it's in the upland South and the lowland South. So it's not, one or the other. In this particular case, we can look at the South as being one cohesive area of persistent poverty. So where do we see it in particular? There in the Mississippi River Valley, for sure. Very clearly you can see it there. Also the Gulf Coastal Plain, along with the Atlantic Coastal Plain. Areas of the upland South in which you can see is for sure there in Appalachia, Eastern Kentucky, East Tennessee, West Virginia, Western Virginia. This particular area, North Carolina, much higher level of poverty than you would find just to the north there in Ohio, Indiana, and the Rust Belt. Go over to the Wichita and the Ozarks. You can also see that pattern there, which the Ozarks, in particular southern Missouri, is an area of high poverty. So those are the broad level patterns. Now let's look a little bit more at some exceptions to that. So let's begin by looking at areas where we don't see poverty. Let's start off in the north. And so what's going on here is this is the megalopolis. This is a transition zone. This is where the megalopolis and its characteristics transition into Dixie, into the South. And so it's somewhere through here. So what's going on in kind of some of more of these rural areas beyond Washington, D.C. is the role of metropolitan areas. You can see Raleigh, Charlotte, Richmond, Atlanta, Birmingham, how they kind of stick out in terms of having these areas of blues and greens. In particular, in the suburban areas, you can see how Charlotte, it's in the suburban areas, not so much in the downtown. Atlanta, the suburban areas, not so much the suburban areas of Birmingham, the suburban areas of Nashville, and so on. And so, not so much in the city centers do we see areas of lower poverty, but it's in actually those surrounding suburban areas. And that pattern we can actually see up there in Indiana as well, quite clearly. Those ring of suburban counties that have much lower poverty rates than Marion County. Other particular patterns out here, you got some college towns, you got Virginia Tech, you've got the University of Virginia, and so subsequently a little bit higher incomes and less poverty there, if you don't count the students. Over here you've got military, so we're going to see this in another part of Dixie, in which a military base also provides a lot of jobs and subsequently less poverty. Another trend you'll note as you go along the coast is essentially these coastal counties of both the Atlantic coast and the Gulf Coast have much lower levels of poverty. And that just has to do with the amenities there. You're going to get more vacation homes. You're going to get more people that are retiring there. And subsequently, you're going to get more jobs there and so on. Also, you do have some urban areas and some port cities that popped up way back when, like Charleston and Savannah, and farther down Jacksonville, that have been there for a long, long time. Coming over here to the Gulf Coast, another area in which you see military is the Panhandle of Florida, Pensacola and Fort Walton Beach. Also touristy areas, also areas in which you see a lot of retirees, subsequently a lot of jobs, and so subsequently less poverty here along the Panhandle of Florida. Another area in which you can see urban areas is New Orleans and its surrounding counties, New Orleans and its surrounding counties, in particular right through here. And then you also have Louisiana State University, and it's nearby a wealthy county there. Jackson, you can see the same pattern. Kind of, it's not so much in the city center, but it's in surrounding suburban areas. So here, the Mississippi River area I mentioned, you can see this stark poverty that's from county to county across this particular area, and those little exceptions pop out, and those exceptions are suburban areas. Finally, we get to the area I've mentioned beforehand. There's Branson. I mentioned that beforehand, but the area of northern Arkansas and Branson, how it's really seen a change, and that change can also be seen in lower poverty rates. So all of this really shows, the poverty map really shows a lot of things that have previously been discussed in other subregions of the South that I've discussed in this chapter.